Yo, what's up, Retcon fam? I'm Trey.
I'm Jay.
Yeah, man, welcome back. This is Retcon Comics. Uh, Getting into another review, Spider-Man, your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man to be precise. Episode 3 and 4 dropped yesterday.
Yeah,
What'd
yeah,
you
yeah.
think?
So real quick. So the interesting thing, which I forgot that Disney was doing this, is they're actually they're dropping multiple episodes at a time.
Two. Yeah.
Episode, it was 3, 4, and 5. Uh,
5 was on there?
yeah. So we had the Identity Crisis one, the Hidden the Big Time, and the Unicorn Unleashed. Maybe not in that order, but it was really very. I felt very spoiled because I'm like, oh man, at least after every end of the episode, I was thinking, okay, but now I want to know, what's going to happen next. And then here comes the episode. I'm like, oh great, I don't have to wait. Let's find out. So it was definitely really, really good. Again, it's not missing anything. The show, for those out there who are watching, if you can check out the background, as you can see, part of that played into the factor of the Identity Crisis episode. So we got Norman Osborn. First of all, we got Peter finally accepting the aid of Norman Osborn after he offered it to Peter, who was hesitant at first. But of course, we saw that a lot of factors played into his decision making, which ended up his Aunt May had past due bills, which is pretty much famously known in Spider-Man mythos. There's always going to be financial problems, either Peter's problems or Aunt May's problems, whoever's problems that have some type of financial hardship. It always plays a factor in Peter's decisions, which led to him, being a photographer in the first place, doing the freelance photography for J. Jonah Jameson. So this right here is on par, with Peter taking on the job, so that way he can help out. It's really interesting. Of course, we're seeing again the parallels, right, with the sacred timeline. You know,
Yeah.
uh, this timeline where Norman Osborn is doing the same thing Tony Stark pretty much did. He's taking him under his wing. He's trying to polish him. Because he's a little bit rough around the edges. Interestingly enough, this was funny that we got to see Norman trying out multiple suits on Peter Parker. The infamous Identity Crisis story arc took place back in the 90s, where, ironically enough, Norman Osborn framed Spider-Man for murder.
Mm.
And there was a huge bounty on his head, but I want to say it was 10 million. He brought everybody out trying to get money on the webhead, and it ultimately left him to have to ditch the Spider-Man persona just for a while until he could figure himself out of this predicament. And with the help of Mary Jane, who was his wife then, which she should have still been, but I digress. Anyway, they came up with four different identities. One was the Hornet that we got to see, which the suit in your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man was created by Norman, but in the comic books the suit was actually created by Hobie Brown,
Mm.
excuse me, is the Prowler. And like you saw, the flight maneuverability, the sedative stingers, all in the wrist gauntlets, but it just wasn't Spidey. He don't fly. And then we got to see the Dusk outfit, which pretty much in the comic books allowed Peter Parker to have invisibility as well as flight. And then we saw the Prodigy suit, which to me is kind of like a playful shot to Superman, because that's what they were going for in the comic books as well. A regal type of superhero in yellow clad suit with gauntlets and all that stuff, and a red cape. But of course, it doesn't work with Spider-Man because as we saw hilariously in the episode, he got tangled up in it, and then he got the business by two low life thugs, who couldn't get
Yeah.
a lick on Spider-Man, but they got a lick on him. And then I really appreciated it because he's a spider. He's not any of these things. And maybe Trey, you probably saw as well when he's trying the dust costume. I think that was kind of like a little playful nod to Batman, as his voice was all raspy and everything, and
Of course.
popped up, raising up slowly. How Batman kind of does on the bad guys.
Listen,
In
imitation is the greatest form of flattery.
so it was really the kid in me got excited because I love that Identity Crisis story arc, and it was amazing. I wish we got Ricochet in there, but it's okay. And then we ultimately landed on Future Foundation suit. Everybody recognizes that, of course, because in the comic books, when Johnny Storm, and we do the quotes with comic book deaths, passed away, They invited Peter Parker to take a slot. They were no longer called the Fantastic Four, but the Future Foundation. And I do where they drew inspiration for that suit for the show. And it was just great. I mean, I love it. I love the fact that, we're seeing this type of display in the comic book, in the show, as much as we're seeing on the comic book. So whoever is doing this, they definitely have done their research thoroughly. Did you like any of those suits by chance, Trey, or do you like the red and blue? That's my jam.
Well, yeah, I mean the Future Foundation suit. I use that a lot in the Spider-Man game.
Yeah. Okay.
So I really like that one. And then the other ones, I'm not as familiar with the Identity Crisis storyline, but the whole time I was like, where's the classic suit? Where's that at? So, but that kind of leads me to my next question. So let's kind of think about episode 1, right? So what were kind of your standouts?
So that was, let's see, he went up against Speed Demon, I'm sorry, and then the female tarantula. Interesting, like, they're plucking these characters, these bad guys that really are really lesser known, but yet they're able to plot and they serve it well. I thought it was good because, again, we're getting more of the friendly neighborhood vibe from Peter Parker. We're also seeing more character development for Lonnie Lincoln, which I'm all for that. And I've said this before. I love a good bad guy story that has depth to it, right? Because all we know is Tombstone is Tombstone. He gangster, he knew how to throw hands, but we're seeing the beginnings of him, and I really think that plays up. That's going to play up well to his inevitable Tombstone run, which is going to come. Nickname. But I loved it. It was really emotional from a personal standpoint, seeing that he took the place of his brother, right? He had to do that. Like there was no way of getting out of that. Like it was a good sacrificial play, which pros do that, but we know that he's going to be a villain unless, the show is going to switch it up. But I love that they brought that in. Again, I love the Norman Osborn dynamic with Peter. It's just because the history so well, you're just inevitable of the shoe to drop just to see how that's going to look. But you're enjoying the ride. It's like a roller coaster. Like you know what's going to happen once you get past this incline, as you climb further and further and further until you get to the point where it drops. But you're in anticipation. You're enjoying it. So I thought episode 3, it's 3 or 4. I'm sorry. Is episode 3? 3. Okay.
3. Yeah.
I love that they're just keeping the ride going. And of course, I think it was at the very end again where they started getting the suits playing, which played into episode 4.
Yeah, I think it was cool how in that episode it really wasn't a lot of superhero stuff happening. Most of the episode was really like character development. Like you said, if you know the Tombstone story arc or where that's headed, you saw the beginnings of it, which we kind of saw again in episode 2. So once we get to episode 2, that's where we start to see more of Norman Osborn and Peter Parker working together. And you see the suits and you see all of that stuff. So what kind of stood out to you in episode 2?
You talking about, it's my 3 or 4?
4. I'm all over the place.
Episode 4, other than the suits, Harry knowing that he's Spider-Man, I thought that was a hilarious way to introduce that. I'm enjoying Nico's role in it as a supporting character. Peter has to have somebody to play off of. In the comic books, it's been Harry Osborn. That's always been his dominant go-to. There have been others along the line, but he's the most popular one. And of course, we had in the Sacred Timeline, it was Ned, and so now we have Nico. And you can kind of tell, like, there's something there. There's some type of, and she's definitely it's like she rages against the popular machine of pretty much anything, and she feels like she's in that same boat with Peter, which leads to the next episode where everybody knows now Peter is associated with Harry Osborn, and now almost like a popularity wave coming through. That to me, ironically enough, other than the suits, that relationship dynamic stood out to me the most. And then of course, Lonnie's, deep dive into the 110th gang uh, pitfall, right? Like he's getting deeper into it, and then we're being introduced to the Scorpions, which is pretty dope. They got Matt Gargan. Obviously, everybody knows he's the original Scorpion, but I like that they brought the new one, Camilla Black, who plays Scorpion as well in the comic books. I think she was introduced in the relaunch of the Amazing Fantasy line, and she also, I believe, she played a role in World War Hulk. For all of those comic book fans out there, if y'all want to get some depth and knowledge into who she is, read those. So yeah, it was just those things that stood out to me. What about you?
Yeah, I think in the fourth episode, obviously the question that I have is like, what's gonna happen with Norman Osborn? Because it looks like what they're doing is they're taking a lot of villains and connecting them directly to Peter.
Yes.
And so I'm wondering how that's gonna play out in the end. I mean, I'm the movie guy, so kind of the relationship between Peter and Harry is pretty prominent in the movies, and how that kind of connected him to Norman and all of that stuff. But it's interesting to see Norman taking that Tony Stark role, how that plays out. Does he stay a hero, or does he turn into the villain?
It's tough. He's bounced back and forth in the comic books with that as well. Most recently in the Amazing Spider-Man run, where he was his sins, so to speak, were transferred out of him, and all that was good. And he did, in fact, take on Peter in a mentor capacity for him, which is crazy. Depending on thinking about how much he's done to Peter. Like he threw Gwen Stacy off a bridge, for starters, right? I mean, that's just so. And I think that really speaks to Peter's character of being so forgiving and desperately wanting to see the good in everybody, right? So, I'm just wanting to see what this when the shoe drop, like what's gonna happen.
What's gonna happen?
Knows he's Spider-Man, so he's definitely vulnerable should Norman definitely turn, right?
Yeah.
And then you're probably about to get to the next episode, which is probably a good segue when we've got the reveal of who's behind these the tech on the streets, right? Who outfitted the female tarantula, who outfitted, which, by the way, so there was a male tarantula who debuted in the Marvel Comics, and then this female, she showed up during the Marvel Comics Civil War tie-ins under the Heroes for Hire guy, Maria Vasquez. I was like, wow, like you're just plucking them out of nowhere, but that's good. It's good. But they were outfitted with tech by none other than Dr. Octavius, aka Doc.
Yeah, that was a cool reveal too.
Yeah.
I wanted to go back to the episode 4 because you said something earlier. The way that they're interweaving, like the things that we know from the Sacred Timeline, and we saw the Sokovia Accords, and they showed the fight, a still image of the fight at the airport from Civil War. Like that stuff really, because the fact that Spider-Man in this universe isn't a part of that.
Right. It's weird because so then what did Tony do, like with his big reveal when Steve wasn't going to back down? Like, who did he call out? Underoos? Was there any Underoos or no Underoos? Throwing hands.
right. Who was it? So yeah, I think that's pretty cool. And then episode 4. Now, full disclosure, at 5, I didn't watch episode 5.
Oh man, I
stopped at 4. Nah, spoil it, man. Spoil it. So what stood out to you there?
Yeah, so that would be other than everything, like it was Doc Ock, Doc Ock popping up at the end. I like the whole comedic routine. There was a comedic routine with Ford Roberts as Peter was doing his patrol in the Future Foundation suit. I couldn't place the majority of them. One of them was named Dimitri, and I'm trying to see if that is the Craven Dimitri, because he was definitely I think that's the second Craven, or I have to brush up on my Craven history, because there's been a lot of cats that's played Craven and they all got Russian names. And I know, there's Chameleon, who is I think he's a relative of the original Craven. The original Craven is Sergei Kravinoff. Dimitri, I believe, was the brother of Craven. I don't know. Retcon fans, please correct me. Let me know because I'm all over the place in the Craven family tree. But I love the banter that all of them had in the van, and then of course the one who got away, the chick, ended up being a Unicorn who popped up uh, in the Tales of Suspense back in the day, and then we see her coming to Doc with the money ready to get fitted, which leads to episode 6. So yeah, I thought that was good. They know how to blend comedy so well, but
Yeah.
it doesn't undercut any of the seriousness that takes place in these episodes as well.
Yeah, it really is kind of a whatever the story that they're telling it very, very well. And it feels like, again, we're pretty grown at this point, and to be able to really, really one, the kid in us be activated by a lot of the stuff that we're seeing, but it's just genuinely a good show, man. And this is probably, I mean, especially after What If, which was terrible.
You talking
Uh,
about overall?
I thought What If overall, to be honest, I can't say overall because I stopped watching it after the second episode. I just didn't care.
Setups, honestly, the third season was just set up for all the movies and shows that are coming out in the future. To be honest, I just, well, that was my take, so it was
Yeah.
what it.
Yeah. So I mean, we got a few episodes of Spider-Man this far. What are your overall thoughts? I mean, is this something that you're enjoying it, obviously, but is this something you would kind of, you know, do you like it so far? Are you excited about the direction that it's going in, and how would you rate it?
I'm still rating it 10 out of 10, man. They haven't missed with anything with me. Episode 6 really, I mean, overall, going from 1 to 6 is really a sealed deal, like great delivery. Episode 6, we got to see Lonnie get his nickname. We got to see the relationship between Peter and Nico be strained as he invited Harry to the movie. That she was really excited to see. So that's cutting into their time. So we're going to see that definitely unfold in the next few episodes, ramifications of that. We're going to see Doc Ock definitely play a more role. I'm really thinking what's happening. That's my prediction. He has got some of the technology from Oscorp, because in episode 5 we saw Norman, or 4. We saw, I think it was 4 or 5. We saw Norman. He looked at the equipment from Speed Demon and Tarantula, and he was looking at a logo very intensely, as if he recognized it. So there might be some type of corporate espionage going on that Doc Ock is involved with, as he's trying to build himself up with power. I mean, Doc Ock, he is trouble on his own. I mean, in
Yeah.
the dude swapped minds with Peter Parker, and Parker's mind and subconscious ended up being in the dying body of Dr. Octopus, which led to
Yeah.
Doc doesn't like it, by the way. Doc does not like it, but
Yeah,
his
he does.
run of Spider-Man was superior Spider-Man. We had a Doc Ock Spider-Man who was more efficient, who was just a tad bit more ruthless, and he was getting things done. I mean, dude, he punched Black Cat straight in her face, right? Like, hey, sexy, how you doing? Bam, now you a criminal. Go to jail. Like, what? What? I broke a tooth and everything.
He's
I
not.
mean, it was this hubris that led to his downfall, which Norman Osborn exploited. Which I'm excited about that, because they have a rich history between those two as well. You would think they get along because they both enemies of Spider-Man, but nope, always gets in the way. So yeah, yeah, it's again 10 out of 10. I'm loving it, and I can't wait to the next episodes.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I think they got a winner with this one. I really do. So yeah, I'm looking forward to what's to come, and to know that things are going to unfold. And I'm excited to see how they continue to kind of interweave what's happening in the sacred timeline. And I'm wondering if we're going to see the Avengers and Spider-Man actually interact in the show.
Well, I will say this: we can look forward to the next episode, because Daredevil will be popping up at least.
Yeah.
Will be voiced by Charlie Cox, who plays the character in live action as well, with, of course, Daredevil Born Again coming down the pipeline.
Yeah. We got a lot to look forward to, man. So far, so good. Obviously, Spider-Man right now is retcon approved. And so listen, in the comments, let us know what you think. Are you enjoying what you're seeing? Tell us what you anticipate. What do you see coming down the pipeline? I'm interested to see what some of the theories are and if they match up to what we actually get an opportunity to see. Please remember, like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you so much to the people who have been doing so. We were fortunate enough recently to have our first video across 1,000 views. So it really feels like we're on to something. So thank you so much. And yeah, man, and continue to support us, and we'll continue to drop these bombs for you. With that being said, thank you so much for watching. God bless.
Bless.